Hello, hello.
What's up, man?
Welcome to the Don's Table, man.
This is the nice table.
It is a nice table. You know, we only opt in for good and nice tables.
How about this lighting, though?
Hey, my man, that's the pool. That's the pool don't miss, man. That's the guy behind the cam.
He doesn't miss. Should be the Don's lighting.
The Don's lighting, X table, and everything else.
Yes.
The Don's Mogul pot and Bryan's brand that we love so much.
The cups.
The cups.
We just sell cups, man. Like
That's
Trump
it.
said.
You know, that's all we do, but it has unlimited possibilities.
It does.
Feel me?
I do.
Feel me? So, welcome to the Don's Table.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here, man.
Rumor has it I'm first guest. Is that true?
I was just gonna say this is not the first episode, but you are the first guest. And I remember on the first one that I did, I mentioned that I really wanted to have my friends and family because this is really the Don's Table. You know, it's like bringing my homies here. And I was like, "Hey, man, when are you gonna be in New York next?" And then it just organically worked out. We just came back from Seattle.
We were in Seattle.
And then I found out in Seattle you were gonna be in New York for something. And then it was just like, wait a minute, this is perfect. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. And coordinated 10,000 things, and here we are.
Here we are at the table.
we are.
This is much better. I mean, it would have been cool in Seattle or out the ranch, but this is cool.
This is dope. This is dope. It's like, I feel like it's the first time I bring you to my backyard of the Bronx.
The Bronx.
So this is cool.
We're in it.
We drove past Yankee Stadium.
Never seen it before.
That was cool.
Yeah, because usually it's like Manhattan, Brooklyn. That's usually where we're hanging out when I come to New York. But that was cool.
There we go. We're in the boogie down Bronx now.
Yeah. Hip hop's origins.
Yeah. Cedric Ave, down the block.
Down the block.
Exactly. But listen, there's a lot going on right now, man. It's a great time to be alive.
Yes.
We launched this like last week.
We did.
And thank God for you having a great team because I was like, wait, what? It's launching when? But very exciting. A lot of great feedback from the crowd, from the people. It's an icon reimagined.
Yes.
It's something that I think we literally met like 2 years ago for the first time.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this thing.
Yep.
And like great things take time.
Now it's real life.
Now it's in real life and you're seeing it, and this is like the most organic product placement you will ever see on this podcast because I was literally a part of this and there was so much passion and collaboration that went into this in an organic form that it was just like we're sipping it right now. We're sipping some Dominican coffee from Barahona.
This is full circle.
And
shout out to Prop for an introduction to us.
Yeah, Prop is the GOAT. The coffee's A&R.
He introduced us 2 years ago?
2 years ago, literally.
So good.
Time flies.
It was COVID because I remember doing Zoom calls with you.
Yeah, my Zoom call buddies.
Yeah, it's you, Prop, me, Joe Gray. Shout out to Joe.
Time flies.
Yeah.
Time flies. But yeah, man, you are one of the most interesting men, that I know, and I appreciate you and your time. If you guys don't know, which you probably don't know, but Bryan is really my only mentor right now. One day I was just like, hey, man, really love what you do. You seem very knowledgeable. Can you be my mentor, man? I just need 30 minutes a month. And he gave me that,
Yes,
and
sir.
we still meet 30 minutes a month.
I love it.
And it's the most powerful thing that has impacted me as a business owner because it's like you've been through so many things and you've learned so much that it's nice to reference somebody, who has that experience. Talking about that, like, if I'm not mistaken, you started your company at 24.
I did, yeah.
I started mine at 22. Not that I beat you to it.
No, you beat me, man.
But I've been struggling longer than you, man. The struggle. But like, what was that journey like? Because I feel like being 26 now, but when I started at 22, I feel like people didn't really take me serious. I had to do the most for people to like hear me out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was talking about that on my last podcast. It's like people didn't really listen to me when I was in the room until like I got on like national TV and it's like, oh, maybe we should give this guy a listen. So like, what was that experience like getting into the business world? I know you had some prior business experience before that, but you weren't really the founder and CEO of that. So what was it like launching Mir and getting into the rooms and trying to get actual accounts?
Yeah, that was what, circa 2009. It was a different world because social media was like kind of just starting. I mean, it's like 2004, Facebook starts, and that's where we're on Facebook, Twitter. But it's changed a little bit in the sense that, now, I think young folks have a little more credibility. If you got a big following on social media, people take you seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But buyers themselves, like the folks who are like in control of buying into retail. At 24, they're like, who is this kid? Like, just get, like, no, nobody, like, no. Because I'm going up against Yeti, Hydra, all these cats, much, much older, much more professional. And so I went social media. So Facebook at the time had very little businesses on it. So I was like, oh, if people don't take me seriously, I'll just sell online.
Wow.
And it was like, that was Facebook. That was the early, I feel lucky in two senses. I was at a company before I started Mir where Google AdWords literally just dropped, and people didn't know what Google AdWords were. And we would place. I was working at Little Hottie's hand warmers, air activated hand warmer company. So like you go skiing, hiking, use these hand warmers, and so people didn't know that the first like 1 to 3 little like kind of yellow boxes were ads, and you could just place the ad.
It was all new.
And it was all new. So everything before that was like SEO, and so our competitors were like 20-year-old companies, so they were number 1, 2, but they didn't know what Google AdWords were. Boom. First slot Google AdWords. We were it was just, we had to pay off our credit card every single day because we like racked up the Google AdWords so high that we had to pay it off to get more ads the next day and the next day. But the sales were so like, it was bonkers. It was like, I want to say we were getting like 20% click through on the ads, and then like 10% conversion into cart checking out. Like it was just like this time. And similar to Facebook, it was like at the time where like, I don't know if you remember this, but like on the news feed, you would catch up to the news feed from yesterday,
and so it will end, and then you got
it would end. You're like, oh, I gotta wait till tomorrow or later for more content to get posted. And at that time, very few businesses were posting in their news feed, and all of that content went into the main news feed. So what I was doing was basically targeting folks for like 1 or 2 cents on the left side, or thumbs up, like the brand, and it would be like people who like outdoors, coffee, whatever it was. That's what I'd target people, get them to like the page, build content for the page, and then same thing. We were getting like 20% click through on Facebook to our website, and then like 5% conversion. So like all of our sales, like year 1, I think we did like in 6 months we did like, and I say we because I'm so used to like pretending that we were bigger than we were. It was me.
I do the same thing.
Like yeah, we were doing this thing, circa 2010. We did like I think like $100,000 in 6 months on Facebook revenue. It was me, but just tinkering. I specifically remember launching our website. It was July of 2010, and you have this idea that like when you launch, people are just going to show up.
Yeah.
And getting them all. So I didn't have enough money to pay people to develop the website, so I taught myself how to code so I could build our website because I couldn't pay somebody. I remember turning it on. It was on Volusion's website. Volusion was like pre-Shopify. Like Shopify just ate their lunch. But turned the website on and like waited. And then it like hit me. I was like, oh, I got to go do marketing. Like I got to go like tell people about this, right? And so that's where like, started just hitting up on Facebook and the content and whatnot. But that was just the moment where I like turned on the website and I was like, oh yeah, you kind of have to tell people.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's so insightful. I've never heard you say that before.
Yeah.
Like I definitely grew up in a different time. It was just like Shopify, Squarespace.
Oh man, Shopify
Wix.
was so much better. Volusion was like, it was fine. It was fine. There was a lot of opportunity there, but it was rough.
It was like making a MySpace profile with the music and all of that.
Yeah, it wasn't quite that bad where it's like you go to someone's page and boom, music in your face. But it was, Volusion was something else. I just remember editing because you could get into the source code on Volusion, so you could really mess some stuff up. So you'd like, your template would get, jacked up and check out. And that was when like SSL certificates and HTTPS was like barely a thing. And yeah, it was wild.
Yeah, I'm scared of that. I remember I was like editing my website and I was like,
oh man, a lot of saving.
Let me not save this. Yeah,
I'd always copy the code before I started, open a document, paste it in there, and then I started to go into town and like editing and whatnot. My buddy Nate Hammer, R.I.P. He unfortunately passed away. He taught me how to code in jQuery and Java, and we do like those dope sliders. We'd have like 3 images, and they'd like transition from like one banner to the next banner. Like that was a big thing back in the day. So
slideshow.
Yeah, slideshow. So he'd show me how to use jQuery and Java and all the good stuff.
You're making me feel like I got it sweet nowadays. You young entrepreneurs getting started, man. We have it sweet. Do you hear this? It's like we just add a slideshow. Here's 3 photos. At what speed?
Yeah. Oh man, the tools these days are amazing. Like, and even outsourcing, like Fiverr, Upwork.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I need this thing. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, I wanted to launch this podcast like 2 or 3 years ago, and I went on Fiverr and I was like, hey, make me a theme song with a trumpet, like Spanish trumpet, not just any trumpet, like a salsa trumpet, and it came out so bad.
Oh no!
I was like, we're not gonna use that theme song. When I could afford one, I'll get an official theme song.
Yeah, totally.
But speaking of little hotties, how would you say that impacted or influenced your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, it's funny. I went to school for business, but I learned pretty much everything about business doing business. In fact, what's funny, I read an article the other day, and it was saying that MBA, like the cost to get an MBA is so expensive now that people are foregoing and getting their MBA, and they're just going and buying small businesses to get the experience of a small business, to like learn business versus like paying to go to school, which I thought was interesting. So I got super lucky. So I got recruited to play soccer up in Seattle, and my mentor was a former soccer player as well at the school. So I got connected to him. And after my freshman year, I quit, hated it. We were playing so much soccer. I was so over soccer, just done. His best friend, this guy Rick Wood, started Little Hotties Hand Warmers 6 months in or so, needed some help, couldn't afford to pay for an employee. He's like, hey, you want to intern for me? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to intern. So interned for him I think it was my sophomore year. And from there, really learned about sales, marketing, operations, finance. I mean, literally everything. Rick was doing everything. He was an extraordinary strategic sales guy. He was in like medical sales, which is super complicated. He was selling like diagnostic strips, which is like super geeky, but he was really, really good at sales. Didn't like operations, didn't like marketing. And I was like, oh, I can do that. So anyway, at 20, he took me to China. That's where we were sourcing hand warmers from.
That's crazy.
And there's a whole other story about how he got into business, but essentially he took me over there and he hated going to China. And I was like, young kid, this is otherworldly. I was like, this is amazing. So I basically started going to China, working on our supply chain. I go by myself. And looking back, I'm like, bro, you were crazy, Rick. Like, you let me as a 21-year-old go to China and like help run the company. He's like, no, man, he's like, I was watching. He's like, I was making sure nothing go off the rails. But I learned we were selling to Costco, REI, early Amazon days. Like I said, we were just figuring out AdWords on our own. So I was like, hey, Rick, come into my office. I'd show him. I was like, check out this. Google just launched this AdWord thing. This product. I was like, we punch in the credit card. Ads are like 10 cents a click. I was like, boom. You know what our average our AOV? We're getting like $40 in AOV. I was like, and he was like, this is insane. And then the next day you'd wake up and you're like, we have so many boxes to pack. So we had to like hire more temp labor in the warehouse. I mean, it was wild. But that was like, I learned so much from Rick as far as how do you get trademarks? How do you settle, people, because people would burn themselves, their hand warmers, they'd say, hey, we're going to sue you, keep it out product liability insurance. You basically just like get a settlement agreement going. So like, inside track. And then we sold the company in 2009.
Wow.
So it was, and it's funny with bottles. One of the reasons we got into drinkware was because Rick, after we sold Little Hotties, we were like, what's next? And so Rick came into my office and he was like, he slammed this like bottle on the ground or on my desk. I think it was a Sig bottle. It was this aluminum Swiss company. He was like, this thing is $30. He's like, this thing's got to be like $2 to make. We should be making drinkware. I was like, all right. Started researching it and whatnot. And
that's crazy.
Yeah. And then the more I researched it out, it was like nobody had designed a water bottle for drinking. It sounds very odd because there's so many drinkware companies now, but it was like Sig, Clean Canteen, Nalgene, a bunch of people, but it was all from like a different industry. Like the Sig bottle was a fuel canister for camping stoves that just became a water bottle. Stanley was like a thermos, your grandpa's thermos type thing. Clean Canteen had this kind of goofy shape. They had gone to China, just grabbed something off the shelf that was already made and put their logo on it. So there was no intellectual property around that. And so I thought, wow, why has no one like made a bottle that's easy to drink from? And it sounds really basic, but it just didn't exist. And so I was like, well, it'd be nice if it fit in a cup holder, because Nalgene's didn't. It'd be nice if I could like one twist opening. Sigs were like, it was like, 30 turns. And then when you drank out of wide mouth bottles, you spill water on your face.
Right.
So I was like, oh, it's a smaller opening. Shower. Yeah, exactly. So I was like, let's kind of, so that was kind of like the start of it. It was, let's just build a better water bottle.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Something was running through my head just now.
Yeah.
There's one follow-up, but then I also never said that you're the co-founder and CEO of Mir.
Yeah.
I never said that.
Yeah, that's right.
That's just how we roll. We've been doing this for so long.
We just rolling straight in.
That we just got right into it. But this is the man, the guy, the legend, not the myth, because he's in the flesh. But so you touched on aluminum cups and bottles and stuff like that. I feel like a lot of people don't really understand the difference of like aluminum versus stainless steel and like how that's beneficial for a cup or drinkware. Like one time I bought this mocha pot from some company in Italy.
Yep.
And I used Cafesa, Cafesa, the espresso cleaner. Yep. I was like, oh, it looks like it looks like this needs to be cleaned and looks really dirty. So I did that and like everything scraped off.
Yep.
Like it looked like dirty metal or something like that. And I just never used it again. But I was confused, and then I found out it was aluminum. So I was like, when it comes to mocha pots, when it comes to cups and drinkware, what's the big difference? Like, what is BPA?
Yeah.
What is the big benefit of not using aluminum and stuff like that? Because I feel like the general public does not know the difference.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I didn't know the difference in the beginning. Now I do, but I feel like most people don't know.
Yeah, there was so 2009, as I was looking at drinkware, I was evaluating stainless steel, plastic, aluminum, polycarbonate, kind of all these different materials of like, what's the best product? What's the best material to make a product out of? And to me, it was quite clear that stainless steel was the most obvious solution. And the reason why was because SIG at the time was a Swiss company. They had a aluminum bottle, but it's widely debated on the internet. If you go and like, is it safe to drink from aluminum? The reality is most aluminum things are coated in something because there's been some linkage between aluminum and Alzheimer's, and it's just not a great material to be consuming from. There's a whole host of reasons to why people don't use aluminum. So, when you think about aluminum can, like a beer can, right?
Right.
It's not raw aluminum. There's a plastic liner on the inside because if you have like Coke on the inside of an aluminum can, it's going to eat that can.
That's crazy.
Right? So like you're going to have aluminum in your drink, which is not good. So the whole thing about like, it's kind of actually funny because when people are like, oh, canned water is better than bottled water. It's like, it's all lined in plastic. Like that's the sad reality. It's all lined in plastic. But stainless steel doesn't have to be. So that was a natural choice. And then the challenge with like SIG, they I think they've kind of had a rebirth years ago because they essentially went bankrupt. And one of the reasons was because they were aluminum bottle wrapped with plastic on the inside, and the plastic on the inside had BPA in it. And so there again, you go to FDA.gov, the government will tell you that BPA is fine. And then you go to other sites and it's like, oh, BPA has been linked to cancer. It's not good for you. And so it's one of those things where it's like, you can take the risk, but it's probably not worth it. Mm-hmm. Like, why would you take that risk if there's a better material out there, right? So I was like, okay, that's interesting. So, and then the whole thing with SIG was they lied about BPA. They said, oh, no, our liner doesn't have BPA. Someone took their bottle, sent it out to independent testing, proved that it had BPA in it, and just tanked, basically went out of business. So the selection of stainless steel was very intentional for us from day one. And with, mocha pots, what I can't figure out is like mocha pots that are made out of aluminum don't have a liner. It's just raw aluminum.
Sounds about right, because when I cleaned it, I was like, that looks nasty.
Yeah, with hot coffee. So for us, when we started to sit down with this, that was like the obvious solution was like, we got to go stainless steel. And the reason, so some people are like, oh, well, why do they use aluminum? It's cheap. It's super inexpensive. Aluminum is really, really inexpensive. Think about canned beer, canned whatever.
Right.
Super inexpensive. It's highly recyclable. That's a benefit of aluminum. But you got to coat it. And what are you coating it with? Plastic. Mm-hmm. And then when you have coatings and they flake off and they chip off, you're ingesting plastic. So like a plastic lid, a lot of times people are like, oh, well, your bottles have plastic. It's a plastic lid. Well, it's a solid substrate. And the reality is like it's not chipping off and flaking because it is a solid piece of plastic. Whereas if you have a liner, that can chip off and you can adjust it, and that's not good. So
can you pass me that one, the green one?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that one. Yeah, solid plastic. Yeah. And you can see it like, I mean, here's one too, right?
So like, yeah, we have one here.
So you got so this one's solid plastic. So it's not like chipping off. Same with this, it's not chipping off.
Yeah.
Whereas if you like coat something, it could peel, it can chip, it's, all that sort of stuff. So
gotcha.
So the same thing with mocha pot. It was like, hey, let's make this out of stainless steel. It's a much better product.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was good. Wow.
Yeah, BPA. Don't mess with it.
BPA. Yeah, because like you hear that, and as a business, I feel like I shouldn't get down with that. Like I shouldn't. I don't think we should. You know what I mean? Because you just know not to do it. I always trust my instincts, and it's like that BPA sounds scary.
It's but it's a building block chemical for plastic, so that's why they use it. So the reality is, there's BP, you know, people don't know this, but like there's BPA in canned food and liners. So you go to the grocery store, some will say BPA free. There's BPA in receipts. You know, when you get a receipt for checking out, a store, restaurant, whatever, there's BPA in that. There's BPA in car plastics. Like it's like everywhere.
That's crazy.
Just not good to ingest. You don't want to eat it.
That's wild.
But the FDA is like, a person would have to eat 500 pounds of canned food per day for them to even have the toxicity, you know, and you're like, or you could just like not drink from it.
Right. And like choose an alternative.
Yeah.
And drink right. Get right with the get right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real.
Probably more than you want to know about BPA, but yeah.
No, that's great because like I feel like I learned even more now. You know what I mean? It's just some things like Google is there's too many opinions on Google.
There's like, a lot of opinions.
You got to pick one.
Yeah, you got to pick a lane.
And and it's too many directions to pick one.
Yeah, you can eat fast food all day, every day if you want.
You know, you have different options.
Yeah. Consequences.
Man, so I'm thinking right now, think about the Don, man. So like your grandfather, you know, I was out there because like, you know, the time you started your company and this time I started mine, I feel like there's something there. And then your grandfather started a business, was successful. That sort of inspired you in a way. My grandfather was a farmer. I consider it a business. Yeah. It inspired me in some way. Yeah. So I was like, can you tell me more about your grandfather's venture? Because like when I was out there, I'm driving on the highway, bro. I just got out the airport and I see a big ass sign, Papé, yellow, and I'm like, that's Bryan's last name. And then I brought it up to you. I was like, is that your grandfather's business? And I thought that was the coolest thing ever because like I've heard of it. Yeah. I know about it. But like when I saw it, I was like, oh wow, like it just brought it into reality for me. Yeah. So could you tell me a little bit more about like how he started that and then how it sort of inspired you? And like what is it like now? Like that company and function? Yeah, definitely. And I think the lesson that I learned from my grandfather is it really calls back to why I think there's the importance of mentorship. Mm-hmm. So it goes like this. So like I see my grandfather, you know, growing up, he started this company after World War II. It's basically commercial equipment. So like heavy commercial equipment. You need a forklift, you need an excavator, you need a scissor lift. Like our family, I'm not involved in the family business, so it's my cousins, my dad's uncle, that whole side of the family runs the business. We have nothing to do with it. But I grew up watching my grandfather build this business. Mm-hmm. And so I have that experience. And when it's in your blood, you're like, oh, if he did it, I can do it. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I think in a similar way, like that's familiar. It's a family tie. So it makes sense. You're like, oh, if he can do it and I can do it, then that's, you know, it's like when people talk about like generational wealth or like whatever it is, when you have somebody who's done it that's close to you, you then believe that you can do it. Right. And so that's why I'm super passionate about mentorship and mentoring folks. Cause it's like, if you can see me do it and you can learn that like, I'm just a guy just like you, mm-hmm. you know, 99.5% of us, we're like, that's how common and like close we are. Like we have more in common than we don't have in common from like a biological level. Yeah. And so for me, that's the importance of the mentorship. But yeah, you know, I grew up watching my grandfather. I heard stories about my grandfather. I worked for the family business one summer. So my grandfather set up the business where it was like, if any descendant wanted to go and work for the family, you could, but you had to go get your bachelor's degree. What? And then you had to go work somewhere for 2 years before you could come and work for the family business. And so in like a meaningful way, I worked there one summer stocking parts, power washing forklifts, just like doing like I had to replace all the sewer lines, you know, I had to like all the drainage, I had to replace all the filters and all the gross stuff. I had to do all that stuff. I had to paint all the conference rooms, you know, but I knew that like my name, like my last name was on the front of the building. I was like, I'm not going to let anybody down. I'm going to work harder than anybody. And I remember the store manager, he gave me a task of like painting the entire upstairs of one of their buildings in Seattle. And I think he thought I was going to take like all summer to do it. And I got it done in like 3 days. And he was like, oh, well, can you go power wash some forklifts? He had to like keep finding stuff for me to do. Yeah. But I think that hustle is like part of it is just growing up, how I was raised, you know, you just work hard. That was kind of embedded in just seeing my grandfather work super hard and my uncle and my cousin, work hard was very meaningful. But you know, like I said, I was working at Little Hottie's Hand Warmers. Yeah. And I got into the outdoor industry. We go to trade shows. I went to China. So I was like, there's no way. Respect family. I'm not going to come and work for you guys. Like, that's different. Yeah. That's cool. So yeah, so I think, you know, the leg up is that like I was blessed to have a grandfather who was successful and to see his success. Yeah. And then to translate that and say like, well, if he did it, I did it, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think that's real. And I think that's, you know,
talking to folks who like grew up maybe with nothing, who grew up with nobody around them being successful, then it's like, it makes sense why they also would think that they would not be able to be successful.
Yeah. You said some crazy game just now. You said some crazy game. Let's get into the business of it. How did your grandfather set up the business to work that way? Did you do that with a trust or some type of agreement? Like how do you leave a company to function like that after you're not here?
I think it was probably in the operating agreement. If I, you know, I don't know like what the actual final detail was.
Is it the SOP?
It was probably in the operating agreement that like you, like the company couldn't hire a family member unless they had a bachelor's degree and like work somewhere else for 2 years. And I think that was like pretty brilliant, you know, to like prevent nepotism. To like, you got to go work somewhere else, go get some experience, and then you come back versus like, oh yeah, here's the job from day one, you know? And I think about this, like, you know, Beck and I have no intention of ever selling Mir. We also don't want to force our kids to work there, but if they did, I think that's something that I would do. I'd be like, hey, listen, get your degree. Maybe I've mixed thoughts on college and university, whether it's worth it or not. Shout out to all the people that didn't go through school. I almost dropped out, but my mom made me finish.
I dropped out.
My guy.
I still want to go back
because Little Hottie, because I was doing it. I was like doing it with Little Hottie's hand warmers, right? And so like I had a college advisor
while you were in school.
While I was in school, I'm flying to China, and I'm getting like C's.
That's different.
And the professor was like, "Listen, like I can make sure you pass, but like you got to be here for like strategic management." And I'm like, we literally were playing like an online shoe game of like buying and selling commodities all over the world. It was like a digital game.
Nah, that's crazy.
And I was like, I'm doing this in real life. I'm flying to China, sourcing hand warmers, and bringing them into the U.S.
That's crazy.
Like I'm doing this, and so I was like, I'm not going to finish school to like give up this opportunity. And this college advisor, Dr. Rand, he was awesome. He was like, hey, here's the deal. You can take internship 1, internship 2, advanced internship 1, advanced internship 2, independent study to get all the credits you need to graduate.
Yeah.
But I think I graduated with a very, very low GPA.
Hey, C's get degrees, man.
C's get degrees.
C's
get degrees.
I literally heard that.
You know, listen, if you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, all that, you know, all the degreed things, like you probably need to go to school.
Yeah. And get some good grades.
Yeah, but like entrepreneurs, like, listen,
That's crazy, bro. Yeah. I didn't even know that. Yeah. Because like, so this is my journey. I did community college.
Yeah.
And they already know this from my last episode, but I did community college, first generation. My mom was like, just graduate high school. I was like, sure. Then I did it. Then she's like, now you got to go to college. I'm like, but how does this work? We've never done this before. So I did community college. Then I got a scholarship, went to University of Rochester. And then in my junior year is when I started working on this idea. And then I was supposed to go back for my senior year. And it was like, I'm kind of doing it, man. You know what I mean? Like I went to college to really just get a degree and get a good job.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what you're trained to do.
100%.
And then I found this thing called Héctor Carvajal that I created in my class. And it was just the same experience. Like, man, I'm already doing it. You know, I'm already selling it. I'm already contacting buyers and manufacturers and printing and making prototypes. And I was like, I'm literally living what I want to live, you know?
Yeah.
I always hated sitting at a desk. I like changing my environment. I love traveling, you know. I get to travel for work, whether it's for trade shows or if it's to a farm, you know what I mean? Like that just always made me feel so engaged and so active that it felt new every time.
Yeah, totally.
So I feel you on that. You know, like I have mixed feelings. I'm like, man, like I technically didn't finish. It's like I would almost like to because it's like I'm the first one to start the journey.
Totally.
So I would love to just finish it.
Totally. And I was like the opposite where it's like I would have been the only cousin to not finish school. So like it's funny how we're like
it's like opposite
but the same thing. Like you want to prove because your family's never done it, and I like my entire family's done it, and I want to prove that like you don't have to do it.
Like I can still do it without this. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. Wow. So I mean, I think the system of like jobs and all that stuff is kind of broken. Where it's like, you know, you got to get your degree, you got to do this, you got to do that, and it's not wrong because, you know, people look at your GPA and all that sort of stuff. But like I can tell you, I have never ever once looked at someone's resume and been like, what was your GPA in college? Like never.
Yeah.
Just doesn't happen like that at Mir. So
that's good to know. You guys hear that? Listen, mistakes happen. All right.
Yeah.
And about the MBA thing earlier, I was like, man, I really would love to get an MBA one day, but I could just hire one. You know what I mean? Like you could really just get somebody with the experience that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And then they could just take over that role.
I think there's probably some value to MBA. My sister has an MBA. There's value there for sure. I am like so against taking the time and money to do an MBA.
When you could just invest that into yourself.
Yes.
As a company.
However, there's so many, like if you want to be in big company and go up the ladder and like do that,
That's the way to go.
that's kind of part of the way. So in one sense, I'm like, I get it, but don't think that somebody having an MBA means that they're smarter than you or they know more than you, because they don't, especially if you've started a business or you're in a business.
Right.
The only difference is that they're reading a bajillion case studies and they have so many at bats and they're just talking about like, oh, this business, that's why business. You don't know until you've been in the seat. You don't know how the P&L actually works until you're sitting in the seat and COVID hits. No business book, no rep, no amount of reading is going to replace the actual experience of running a business, period. End of story.
Facts. Gem drop.
Anyway.
Drop the mic.
Yeah.
Drop the cups.
So, I don't know. I
Facts.
get kind of passionate because MBAs think that, sometimes they just get on their high horse in their tower and they're like, I have an MBA. I'm so intelligent. And I'm like, you probably are intelligent, but you also don't know.
Yeah. I feel that.
So shout out to MBAs. Good job. But you don't know.
Shout out to y'all. We already know. We respect it. It's just we just have an alternative route right now.
Yeah, and I think that's my experience. Other people have different experiences, and you want to go work at the big companies, you're probably in the MBA.
Yeah. Everybody has their own route. We
Totally.
respect it. We just have our own, and it's like this is a super.
Yeah.
It's so interesting how we come from two totally different worlds, but it's kind of like the same experience.
Yeah.
So interesting, bro. It's pretty cool, man. It's
My
pretty
guy.
cool. We're here. Oh man, I just have so many things on my head right now. Like, where do we go with this? Where do we go with this? All right. I think one thing I struggle with is balance, man. And like, I'm a single young man. Okay.
I still don't know how you're single, bro. Are you seeing this guy?
Honestly, it's tough. It's tough being single. I just gotta focus on the business and the goals right now. It's not easy being a superstar. But man,
you mean handsome?
When you have the mix of Dominican Republic, you might
Beautiful
look like
people.
this. You make mocha pots.
Beautiful people.
You come up
Beautiful
with mocha
people.
pots.
Yeah.
You do have beautiful people.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, man. You and your wife back
Yeah.
are inspirational. Hashtag goals. Like I
Thanks,
would
man.
just love to. 3 beautiful kids, just beautiful family, and you guys launch something, and you guys work on it together, and just seeing her do her thing at Mirror X was so cool. It was dope, and just the energy, bro. So like, tell me how I know it's challenging. It's not easy. I know you guys probably have had tough times because everybody has tough times, but like, what do you think is the key to a successful marriage? The key to a marriage that runs a business, and you have kids? Like you're a full blown father, like, bro. Literally, when was it? Monday.
Yeah.
Monday, you flew out,
Yes.
and then you went home.
Yes.
I'm not gonna say where you live, but you flew home,
Yes.
and then the next morning you walked your kids to school.
Yes.
Then you came to New York,
Yes.
and you just went home just to walk your kid to school.
It's fun. In fact, I went from Seattle back to where I live to put my kids to bed, which is amazing. Woke up, walked them to school, walked back home, took the car back to the airport, flew back to Seattle, back to New York because there's no direct flight from where I live.
That's crazy. But that's what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? It's like, that's beautiful, but it's like, it's a lot. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you balance that? You know what I mean? Like doing what you do, you have a lot on your plate. You have a big team to manage. You have big goals and aspirations. What do you think is the key for people to be successful at managing these different things?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's different for everybody for sure. For me, it's, it's funny. My cousin who runs the family business, people be like, hey, what's your best financial advice? What stocks, what do you got? And he's like, marry right. People are like, what are you talking about? He's like, because if you get divorced, that'll cost you. That'll cost you half.
50%, Papa.
50%.
50%.
And it's funny because he has a great marriage, but in a sense it's true. Like, I feel like I got super lucky in the sense that like I married up, and I married up in the sense that like there were some other people I dated who were like, it probably wouldn't have worked out, And I think with Beck, it's like, I mean, we're kind of like soulmates. It's like we're best friends, and and the other thing, the advantage that we have is that we met when we were 18, freshman year of college. That's when we first met, dated off and on through the first couple of years, and then got married after college. So we, in a sense, like kind of grew up and matured together. So like all of the like challenges of just figuring out your 20s, who you want to be, what you want to do, where you're going to go in life, we got to do that together. And I think it would be harder if we were like just met, last year or 2 years ago. And we were married for 10 years before we had kids. but we were running mirror. So that was part of it too. And we I think one of the, I don't know if it's a secret, but just like we just having communication, like constantly talking about goals, ambitions, trying to be on the same page. And listen, the first 5-10 years is just hard because you're wrestling with priorities and dreams and visions. And I specifically remember this one time because you were out at the ranch last week, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was like something I envisioned from like a very young age. I was like, I want to have a piece of property in the middle of nowhere, and I'll have this place. And in the early, kind of like around when Mir started, I was like talking about, hey, let's find some property, let's build this cabin, this whole thing. And Beck's like, we are so far from that. Stop sharing that dream with me, because it's like a tease. It's like something that I can see that you want, but like we are so far from that. Just like stop talking about that. And it kind of hit me. I was like, wow, I gotta like, my actions weren't necessarily mapping to my dreams. Like they were like way too ahead. So I kind of had to bring it back to reality of like, okay, let's like put that dream like over here. Let's just like grind and get Mir to a place where it needs to be. And then let's reapproach that dream. And that dream has come true for sure.
That's dope.
It's a special place, but, man, I think specifically with marriage, like knowing your roles and communicating them is like top priority. I can't say enough about communication. Calendaring everything is like saved our marriage. Like everything is on the calendar.
That's good to know.
Everything is on the calendar. Like every trip, everything that has to go down, everything is in the calendar. Because then it's just like clear. We have this mantra inside Mir, clear is kind. And so if I know that like I have to be home for soccer practice or she needs to be around because I'm going on a trip, just knowing that up front, then there's no surprises. And there's always, things come up here and there, but like that's like one of the main issues, like one of the main things. And I think for us, the other reason is, we never want to give the illusion that like everything is super easy for us. And now though, the stage we're at with Mir and the growth and everything, we have so much help now that it's like, it may look easy on the outside, but like, just so y'all know, like Jenny, my right hand, she's a boss. Like my assistant is a boss.
I met Jenny for the first time.
Yeah.
Jenny's a boss.
Yeah. Yeah. So she takes care of so much for us. We have other people who are helping out. We have family, that helps out. So it's a whole, like, it is a concert of effort from people around us. So, and it's one of those things where like, when you see people who are just like, yeah, we've made it because it's all us, me, you're like, it's not all you. We have an incredible team. We have people who step up. I don't have to be in the office every single day, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. That's a big one. Wow. Thank you for sharing.
So yeah, and we don't call it, like, a lot of people talk about work-life balance. We specifically, just me and Beck, have work-life integration, where like we designed it where we wanted to have a business that we ran together, and we know, like, she has her part, I have my part, and from there, we don't talk about, like, the reality is, like, when we get home from work, we try to get home from work at 5, and some days it goes later, some days it doesn't. But now at this stage in our life, we got 3 kids. We want to be present with them. We want to cook together. We want to eat a meal together. We want to put them down. But as soon as the kids are down at 7:30, like, we're probably working again. Grind time. We're emailing. We're talking. Or even if we're like laying there in bed, we're talking about, oh yeah, when we go to this thing next year, oh, that'd be really fun if we did this. Or what about this? What about if we did this product? What do you think about this? Hey, what do you think about that meeting? It's like,
that's cool.
It's constant. And every once in a while, one of us will just be like, shut it down. We'll just be like, hey, I can't. I need a moment.
Yeah. I'm going to walk the dog.
Yeah. No, yeah, for real. The other day I was like, hey, I just need to take Winter for a walk. She's like, all right, I get it.
Yeah.
And that just takes time, like Anthony, Anthony's mentor talks about how like it takes experience to experience. And at first you're like, what are you talking about? But it's one of those things where like we've been married for 16 years. So we have this experience, and it's like, it just gets better and better and better. And I think it's kind of like that 1% gain every day over time is like the bell curve of 1% of worse every day, where 1% of better is just like, I think it was James Clear. It's like this massive just hockey stick of 1% of growth every day. 1% better, 1% better.
That's how I feel about running.
Same. Yeah.
It's like, if I just get 1% better, man, it's 1% further.
Yeah. Yeah. Micro gains.
That's real.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said the thing about the calendar.
Oh yeah.
Because I used to tell somebody who I used to date how important my calendar is. And I was like, hey man, don't be weirded out if I send you a calendar invite for dinner. She's like, I don't want to live a life with somebody who sends me a calendar invite. And I was like, unfortunately, I have so much going on. That's kind of how I organize my days.
Yeah, I kind of don't want to be married to somebody or partner with somebody who doesn't have a cat.
Yeah, shorty. No, I'm just kidding.
No, well, it's funny. I wasn't always that disciplined. I had a mentor, this guy Nick, and he still is amazing. He's still with us. He was always like, the discipline will set you free. And I was like, what are you talking about? I love just being able to bob and weave and move with the wind and all this stuff. And it was like, no, as soon as you get that discipline of what you're doing every single day, then you have the freedom mentally to think about the more important things that need like the space, right? So like Jenny puts in blocks where it's just like 2 hours strategic time, not the office. So when I'm like, oh, I need to work on this project, I got this board meeting, I got whatever it is, I know that there's a spot on Tuesday and Wednesday where I get 2 uninterrupted hours by myself to just like work. So I have the freedom during the week when I'm like, oh, I got to work on that thing, and I have to like scramble and look for my calendar when I'm going to slot this in. It's like, it's already there. It's like the gym, like everything's programmed. And it sounds like robotic to be like programmatic, you know, and I'm sure like there's flexing and there's moving. We have 3 kids. Of course stuff changes, but for the most part, just calendar it out.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. It's really reassuring to hear that, because like honestly, growing up in the Bronx, or just like number one, being born in DR, like I was born in the country, and like discipline wasn't really a thing. Like you kind of wake up at 5, you go to the farm, you work, you come back. Like they have a routine.
Yeah.
But like for me, I didn't really have a discipline growing up. You know what I mean? Like I kind of feel like I raised myself for the most part, because my mom always working 2-3 jobs and stuff like that. So like any type of discipline that I have now is like I kind of gave to myself. I didn't really, nobody really taught me that.
Yeah.
How to save money, or like not spend what's in your account. You know what I mean? Like I grew up in a neighborhood where you just get fly. You're fly all the time, but you're always broke. And it's like, bro, why are we living like this? You know what I mean? So it's weird to like not be fly, like not wear the latest Jordans. It's weird to just not look good per like trends.
Yeah.
And it's like, nah, I'm good off of that. I don't need that. I'd rather have that in my account.
Yeah.
Or like I'd rather buy a sack of coffee and flip that, and then, you know?
Totally.
It's like a totally different mentality of like going against the grain when everybody thinks like a herd mentality.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to man, that feeling of running out of money is the worst.
Oh yeah. You know, I'm always up and down.
Yeah.
You know, but like the best feeling is like when you don't have to worry about like automatic payments, like not being automatic because there's no money in the account.
Yeah, people say money doesn't buy happiness. I beg to disagree. It buys a lot of happiness to a point. I don't know what that point is, but like to that point where you like where like automatic payments, you have no worry, that takes a lot of stress off the table. You know, and I think, listen, like for me and my experience, there was a moment in college I was doing video production, and my camera broke and I had to buy a new camera. And my dad was like, no, you figure it out. And I remember like, I have no money and I have this debt. Like I'm so effed, and had to go get a job at Banana Republic to go like make up the extra money so that I could get a new camera to keep filming on the video production scene. Right. And listen, like, don't mishear me. My financial, you know, component, I can go get a job anywhere, you know? So it's not the same as like you growing up where you're like actually bootstrapping immigrant. Like I'm not trying to compare my struggles to your struggles, because they're not different. Respect to you on that. Running a company and having payroll and having that stress when you're grinding and trying to figure it out. Like we had a moment in 2018 where we had cash calls where we weren't going to make payroll, and it was like terrifying. And that feeling, I was like, I never want to feel that feeling ever again.
Like tighten your chest. That's crazy.
Oh my gosh. Just like props poem, like breathe, you know, like it's, yeah. And so I don't know. So those are moments where you're like, I'm going to like work my ass off so I don't have to have that feeling again. And most people, in that time, no employee knew about that. You know, like I don't want that. Like Beck and I made a commitment. We were like, we will never, ever miss payroll, which means COVID was hella scary.
Nah, 2020 was a different time.
We're like, oh, 90% of the business is gone. This is new.
That's crazy. It reminds me of like Armando.
Yeah, Alyssa. Oh, shout out Alyssa.
Yeah, she was on a podcast with you, wasn't she?
She might have been. She's amazing.
No, you mentioned her on a podcast.
Yeah. She's an incredible entrepreneur.
Yeah, that was cool.
So good. Cool.
Man, we're almost getting to it. You know, I like to be respectful of people's times and yours, because you're the real boss in the building. You have some amazing stuff later, and you're busy, and it's beautiful. And I'm glad you made the time to come up here to the Boogie Down Bronx.
Man, Boogie Down.
Undisclosed location, mind your business. If you could leave entrepreneurs with some gems. Man, I don't even know which way to take it because you really got all the answers, you know?
No. I
You're
don't know
like,
the answers.
Sway. You got the answers, Sway. Somebody wants to start a business
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
post-COVID.
Yeah.
Top 3 pieces of advice. I feel like a lot of people want to do things,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like they just don't
Yeah.
want to take the jump.
Yeah.
And then there's also people who are very impulsive, and then they try it, and then they're like, "This is not for me."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, top 3 advices for somebody who wants to start their business, and they're bootstrapping it.
Yeah. That's a great question. You know, I think at the highest level, I think we're in an age where, you know, culture, like I grew up running Mir where like entrepreneurs weren't celebrated. And like, in fact, in 2009, social entrepreneurs, you know, companies that were mission based of like, I want to help with my product at the same time while I'm selling a product was a new idea. It was a new concept. And nobody was like, oh yeah, social entrepreneur, that's really cool. Like we were not celebrated. In fact, people, like so many people, and especially like family and, you know, some friends, but just culture in general was like, what, you want to start your own company? Why would you do that? Like, go get a job, go punch the clock, you know, and respect all the people that do that. But for me, I was like, no, I want to do this because like I believe in it, right? So I think, you know, there's one idea that like starting a business isn't for everybody, and that's okay. Because I think now we're in what I'm getting at is we're in a era, social media, wherever, where like the entrepreneur is celebrated, and I love it. As an entrepreneur, I love it. Like entrepreneurs should be celebrated, but it's borderline like there's also a crush it mentality where it's like fake entrepreneur, like people are not saying how hard it is, and so they get into it and they're like, oh, damn, this is way harder than I thought because of the like flaunting, the you know the flexing of like, look, I made it, I've crushed it, all this, without showing the other side of like, this is really freaking hard. So I think give yourself some grace because like it's not for everybody. I was reading some stats the other day that like 3 out of 5 people in their lifetime have an idea to start a company, but something like 90% of those people never do it because they don't have the money to do it. They don't have the capital. And I think it's as much as capital is a constraint, I also think it's a mental constraint. So if you want to start a business and you don't want to go through investors, or you don't want to raise money from friends and family, or you can't get a loan from the bank, you just want to straight up hustle, which is awesome. Just audit your life. What can you live with and what can you live without? Because those first, honestly, like 8 years of Mir, there were a lot of things that Beck and I went without. We didn't travel a ton. We certainly didn't have a social life, you know, like the benefits of being your best friend is your wife. Like we hung out with each other a lot, you know. Cool. I remember friends going on trips and we're like, we can't afford to do that because we're putting the money back in the business, you know. I still remember going to the public storage unit. We had that for the first 2 years. Roll up door, load all the boxes in the car, take it to the printer, ship it. It's real, right? So just audit your life of like, what can I afford? What can I not afford? Because now I think people have this mentality of like, oh, I have to have the latest iPhone. Do you? Maybe you don't. Maybe you can have like 2 gens later, right?
Yeah.
So I think audit, you know, if you want to hustle and bootstrap it, audit your life. There's more money than you think. And it's okay to work another job, right? Like it's okay to like work 20 hours, 40 hours, and then do that. Because like people are like, how did you make it work? How did you and Beck made it work? Well, the reality is when Little Hottie sold, we got some bread from that. Respect to Rick. But also Beck worked the first 5 years at Morgan Stanley making great money. And then on nights and weekends, we'd work together on the business. So like we had this beautiful partnership where it's like, I didn't make any money the first 5 years of Mir, but that was intentional. Right. So I had this awesome partner who was crushing it. He was making all the money.
Feel me?
Paying for everything. My sugar mama. Shout out to Beck. So that, you know, that worked for us, and it's different for everybody. But I think, you know, not everybody's an entrepreneur. If you're going to do it, just audit your lifestyle. You can probably live on a lot less than you think you can. You know, and just make that dollar go far. I mean, when we were going to our first trade shows, we would go to Chipotle because we could make 2 meals out of it. Like we knew that if we went to Las Vegas for Interbike Trade Show, we go to Chipotle, get the giantest, biggest, put everything in there, everything in there.
Bowl.
Oh, can I? And then here's a hack: when you check out, after you've already swiped the card, oh hey, can I get a tortilla for this? Because you know what? It wasn't worth it for them to go ring you up for like 50 cents or $1 for another. They'd be like, give me the tortilla. You know, so like things like that where it's like, I'm gonna eat half this bowl, then I'm gonna save the other half. I'm gonna make a burrito for it tomorrow. I mean, it's like
I definitely did that.
sorry,
in college.
Chipotle, but
I'm sorry, guys. I definitely did that too. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, it worked. It worked almost every time. But make that dollar go super far is I think like and you know, it's honestly one of those things where it's like, for me, this has been like the highest highs and the lowest lows. And now in my life, I'm really trying to like bring those more like closer together and be a little bit more like harmonized, because we have that benefit of like, we've got some traction, we've got a good brand, we've got a team. And trust me, I love the big wins are awesome, but also like the big lows are terrifying. And so I'm trying to find that, like, I'd like a little bit more in the middle, please. You know, after, 15, 16 years of the grind, I'm like, let's just bring those together. Yeah. But just know it'll be the most amazing experience of your entire life, and it'll be the most difficult at the same time.
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah.
You hit such a good point, because we're living in that era where people romanticize entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. Like, it is not easy. Mm-hmm. I don't remember if I touched on that in the last episode, but I speak about it all the time. It's like, yo, like, this is not for everybody, number one. Oh, I definitely did speak about it last time. And I remember speaking about people who work at a desk. Like, there's nothing wrong with working at a desk. I never heard the term punching the clock, but like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with punching the clock. Yeah. It really isn't. If that's for you, that's for you. Like, trust me, I've had days where I was like, oh, I really wish I had a regular job right now and I didn't have to deal with payroll, because 100%. I'm not getting paid and everybody else is, you know what I mean? Yep. And like, I'm going to eat cup of noodles this week and everybody else is going to eat whatever they want. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's that sense of like, people romanticize these things. And I feel like that's why people like me and you connect. Cause it's like finding a tribe. Yep. You ever read that book? Yeah. It's my homie.
Really?
I serve him coffee at the farmer's market.
Come
Anyways, I'm just,
amazing.
Seth Godin. Anyways,
Dude, that cat is smart.
I used to read his books in college, and then I'm at the farmer's market, and I'm like, he has a mask on. I'm like, I know those glasses.
Yeah, you're like, I know those glasses.
And I know that bald head.
That guy has a way with words. That guy's amazing.
He's smooth.
Yeah.
Smooth like butter.
Yeah.
Smooth like butter. But
it's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody.
And that's okay, But it will be like, and that's the thing is like, there's an invitation. I think everybody has some sort of like business in them, side hustle, Etsy, whatever, to like full on enterprise. Mm-hmm. Like America and the world is built of small businesses. Like, I love small businesses. Like, they're my favorite people. Like, don't get me wrong, the big folks pay the bills too.
Mm-hmm. Facts.
But I love small business owners, entrepreneurs, because they're just getting it every single day.
The grind.
Yeah.
The grind is real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that about coffee. I feel like it's such an interesting industry, because like, it was like us kicking it at your ranch. Yeah. And it was like me and like 3 other people who sell coffee, and we're just kicking it. Like, what up, homie? And it's like, yo, you up on this yet? Oh, no. Let me put you on. And then it's like, are you up on this? And it was just like, damn, did you just help me make more money? You know what I mean? So it's that type of industry where it's just mad love, and it's just dope that I could be in that ecosystem with people like you and them, and 100%. We all just kind of share the knowledge, the wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, that's what Mirror X is for, man. It's just like people connecting, just right there.
I mean,
yeah,
life-changing experience.
People getting together, different industries, cross-pollinating, sharing ideas. Because Prop said this in our Columbia video that we did with him. It's like, if you win, we all win.
Right.
And I think it's getting more popular. I think that idea, but I think in the past, kind of capitalism has this like extractionary nature and this like, we must destroy everybody and have this like monopoly and whatnot. But I think it does have the ability, capitalism, and does have that ability for, it's not like it's a stagnant piece of pizza, and everybody have to slice and dice everything. The pie is growing, and there's nuance and that growth. So like, as it grows, like, hey, if you win, we all win.
Right. The slice gets bigger.
Yeah.
It's one slice, but that slice is heavier. It's thicker.
Yeah.
It's richer.
Yep. And it just feels better when somebody else wins. Like, it's amazing. Like, seeing you win is like, I think I told you this too on the phone. I was like, I didn't understand why these other guys kind of invested in me and were like mentoring me, whether it was pre-Mir and then Mir. It was just one of those things where after I, grew a little bit, started mentoring from folks, I was like, oh, I get it.
I get it now. Yeah.
It's like the most fulfilling thing ever.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you for investing in me.
My pleasure.
Just with knowledge and time and being here, you know what I mean? It means everything. Thank you for helping me bring this idea to life, you know what I mean? It was the coolest thing ever. I think as a Dominican kid, to reinvent something you grew up with is like mind-blowing. You know what I mean? So that was pretty cool. Like,
and that was so fun.
If you haven't gotten your mocha pot, get to it,
Get
chop,
to
chop.
Get
Before
it.
they're all gone. I'm just kidding. They're always gonna be here. Listen, me or X, we just came back from there. I feel like if I see you there, I know you made it, or like you really got it popping. You are a leader in your industry, or you're really shaking the ground. So if you need a goal, your goal should be to make it there. It's like invite only. You can't just sign up. You know what I mean? So it's that if you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
So it's pretty cool. Thank you for coming on the pod. The
My
Don's
pleasure.
Table, bro. The first guest, phenomenal. I try to keep the time constraint, but I was like, nah, we're going over right now.
No, let's go over. That was fun.
Yeah, that was. I figured. I was like, this person.
We could talk for another 8 hours, man.
We really could. I mean, we spoke for like a few days straight, maybe almost a whole week.
We'll do part 2, part 3, part 4.
Facts.
Yeah.
When we get the bigger accounts,
My guy.
and we hit the new levels, boom.
Boom.
But yeah, thank you for tuning in with us today. Thank you for coming to the Don's Table, the
My
first
pleasure.
guest ever, the second episode.
I'm honored.
And you already know. I'll catch you on the next one.